a Miss WOC reader, and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to do something slightly different. So I wanted to do a discussion video that was different from my normal discussion videos, in that I had a lot of topics on my mind that I wanted to talk about, but I didn't feel like they each warranted their own separate discussion video. So I'm just going to talk about a few topics today. So the first one is just based off of a conversation I was seeing go around Twitter this morning, and basically an author asked when we were going to be ready to have the conversation about how boys are being left out of YA. So I've touched on it before a little bit when I did a video about black boys in YA specifically. Every time we try to have this conversation, some naysayers, usually women, come in and are just like, well, books shouldn't be gendered, and why can't the boys just read the books with the girls as the protagonists? You can say books shouldn't be gendered, but let's be for real here. People are writing to a specific target audience when they sit down and write a book. Whether your audience is women, men, non-binary people, whether they are gay or straight, whatever it is, people have a specific reader in mind when they're sitting down to write a book. You're never going to be able to satisfy everybody with your book, and you can't write to everyone. We all have different tastes. We all have different things we're looking for. We all read different genres. So it's kind of crazy to say, in my mind, that books should be gendered, when at the same time you know there are books that are specifically written for certain genders. And YA, we can make a great argument for most of it being targeted towards women. Now, I won't even necessarily say teen girls, because as we know, teens have been pushed out of YA. And a lot of these books and just these deal announcements I've been reading lately, I'm like, oh, that's such an interesting concept for adults. Like, it doesn't necessarily sound like a concept the teens are clamoring to explore right now. But there are so many adult women who they don't want to read outside of YA, and they hold on to this space like with all their might, to the detriment of the age category. So there are so many adult women who just refuse to read adult books because they're comfortable in YA. They like the writing style, they like the nostalgic feels that they get from, since they've been reading it since they were teens. And we often see these women asking for like a bridge category. Like, they're like, I need a bridge age category because I don't feel quite ready for adult books. But boys don't get that bridge. Most of the time, boys are kicked out of middle grade and pushed towards adult books, and like heavy adult reads too, like epic fantasies, like challenging literary fiction. So they aren't expected to like need that bridge and have that struggle between going from children to adult. Technically, YA should be the bridge from the younger children book to adult books, but the way in which everything is set up right now, where YA has become more of a marketing thing than anything else, it's no longer that bridge that it's supposed to be. And boys are left out in favor of women, because women have been the main buyers of YA for well over a decade at this point. Publishers are actively going after these adult women to get their money, and the boys can just go buy the adult books. And so I see people commenting on it, and they're just like, well, you know, I recommend this for the boys, or I give them these girl books. And let's be honest, a lot of these girl books too, they have an idealized version of the boys in them. So even if they do have a male main character, you're going to see someone who says all the right things most of the time, or at least all the things they think women want to hear. You're seeing like a fantasy version, because even if he's not one that says the right things, like he's like the bad boy, it's not necessarily a true portrayal of actual teen boys. And I do see some women who try and help break the gap by writing books with boy protagonists, and I have promoted some of them and I appreciate them. But I can also admit that unless you've been a teenage boy, you just don't know that experience. The same way I don't believe like a white woman could write the experience of a teenage black girl because she's never lived that experience. So like I can do my research, I can ask around, I can watch, I can do my best, but I know like I wouldn't be able to write a black teen boy who feels as realistic as a black teen boy written by a black male author. And so many times, even when I do see books by male authors in the space, they are targeting girls. Like, even if the protagonist is not a girl, like, they're just written in a way that they're supposed to appeal to the female reader and the things that they want to hear versus necessarily the things that boys want and need to hear in these stories. And we're kind of dancing around that and not trying to have that conversation. And I would love more people to speak out because I hear women, I hear like moms, I hear teachers, I hear librarians make this complaint often that it's so hard to get the teen boys to read right now. It's hard in general to get the children to read right now, but to get the teen boys to read things right now is especially hard because there's just not enough out there for them. Topic number 2 is one that is near and dear to my heart in a way. So it all started with a comment I got last week on an old blog post. Like, this blog post was from early 2020, which I've had the blog technically since 2015, but like I did like one post and I just fell off and didn't get back in till the end of 2019. So this was an opinion piece, as is everything I write on there and everything I say on my channel. It's my opinion. And I said that I really don't want to read books written by BIPOC authors that are about white characters. Specifically, what I mean by that is like there are 2 white characters and like no BIPOC main characters. Like the BIPOC are like side characters, something like that. And I listed examples of books and just things that I was told by authors. And I still stand by everything that I wrote in that blog post. I will link it in the description box below for you guys. But the comment was so funny, and I did approve the comment and leave the comment up just because it was so funny to me. Like, the person was telling me I was overreacting, and I don't feel like I'm overreacting. So I don't necessarily believe that BIPOC writers can write white characters better just because we are so used to consuming white media. At the end of the day, I don't know what it's like to be a white person, and I will never know what it's like to be a white person. I have different worries from them. I navigate the world in a different way. We all navigate the world differently depending on what race and culture you're from, and that just is what it is. That's not a bad thing. I remember at one point in like the early 2010s, I feel like they were trying to push us to like be like a raceless society mindset where it's like we're all the same, just different skin color. And I bought that for like 2.5 seconds, and then I realized like no, we are not all the same, just different skin color. And that's actually okay. We all have differences that make us unique and special and are worth embracing. So I saw this thread on Threads. I don't actually have an account on Threads, I said this before. I just like see stuff that people send me, or you know how like on Instagram it'll be like this person wrote this, and if it's something that interests me, I'll go to like the Threads website and check it out just to see what they're saying. Because I just find Threads such a dramatic place, and I find that they have some conversations there that you wouldn't necessarily have on book Twitter. And writing Threads is like its whole place. So I saw this black writer, and she was making the argument that she should be able to write books with two white characters, even though people will get upset with her about it. And I was actually like surprised there were so many posts encouraging her to write a story. Although not necessarily, because I feel like when this topic has come up before, I've been told by people, well, like, I have to write what sells, and what sells is white characters. Or if you are truly a writer, you should be able to write whatever. But my thing is, why, as a writer who is underrepresented in the bookish space, just across the board, whether we're talking indie or trad, we are underrepresented. We just don't simply have the same numbers or the same push through the algorithm. Why would you want to write these characters who don't look like you? Like, people always tell you the best thing is to write what you know. And I'm not saying you always have to write about what you know about, but there is just like this added layer when you're writing truly about the things you are familiar with. You just get to write a little bit deeper when you're writing characters that are somewhat similar to yourself. And I find it makes it so much easier to connect with the writing. Because when you're writing outside of your experience, you have to do your research to make sure it's valid. And so I don't really care at this point who writes white characters as a black author. My stance is just, I ain't planning on reading that. I won't be reading it. Don't ask me to promote it. Don't ask me to support it. If you feel like writing black characters boxes you into a certain box you don't want to be in, fine. You have a right to feel that way, but I also have a right to not pick up your book. And I will be telling my friends not to pick up your book either. Because at this point, I'm looking for more stories from people who look like me, and there's just so many endless possibilities of different types of stories to tell that we haven't seen yet, because we just haven't been given the chance to put our stories out there, or people don't know they can write that type of story. So you will never see me on anybody's post saying, yeah, go ahead and write that book with the two white main characters. It's just like not gonna happen. Last, you've probably seen so many conversations about hyper consumerism culture right now, just all around the web space. I feel like people are more open to having the conversation when it comes to things like clothes or makeup, or like going to TJ Maxx and doing a bunch of hauls and things like that. But when it comes to books, people don't want to have that conversation, because being a reader is inherently seen as better, and hauling books is seen as better than hauling other stuff. Like, buying books can be an addiction, but I see people say, well, you know, at least I'm not addicted to drugs. But like, buying the books can be like your drug. And we see people talk about like, oh, I'm in so much debt, but then you see them haul hundreds, if not thousands of dollars worth of books every year, many that they end up unhauling. But that's considered perfectly fine and okay, and nobody wants to really talk about that. And one aspect of just like consumerism culture we're seeing right now is the way in which books are marketed. So the trend right now is for publishers to do these first printings where they have fancy edges, and they might have like specialized end papers or something in them, or like they might have like an exclusive colored cover. And I'm seeing books marketed solely based off that. Like, the publisher won't really tell an author, they won't really tell you what the book is about. You go in knowing minimal details, but it's like, this is your key selling point. Buy this book because it looks pretty. And we kind of see them use it to justify the rising costs of books as well. So like this book is $23 as a YA, but it's pretty and it has these fancy edges. So that kind of justifies the higher price. And it's funny watching people argue, like when the special edition conversation came up recently, because I saw people say, well, that one book having like 4 different editions for every retailer is okay because it's more accessible. I don't see how that's an accessibility thing. Like, I don't see how that aids in accessibility by having special editions at every retailer. Now, if we were making the argument that, like, if you buy the hardcover, it gives you a QR code where you can download the ebook or the audiobook without any additional cost, I would say that is being accessible, because we know everybody can't read um, in the physical format. Some people do better with audio. Some people want the ebook because of convenience. Some people, like me, sometimes like to switch between different mediums depending on what they're doing and what time they have. So I'm also of the idea that these special editions are no longer special because they're churning them out so fast. Like before, books used to get a special edition because it was very popular and it was like an anniversary or something. Now they're giving it to you right off the bat as a key selling point. It's just no longer like a special thing because it's like, oh, I can get this pretty book or I can get that pretty book, and I know nothing about either pretty book, but it's pretty. And we're not getting those other exclusive editions as much where it's like total redesigned cover. We're just getting these special end pages or like and sprayed edges. I actually would love to see more special editions for BIPOC books that are just total redesigned cover, which you usually only get in book boxes. But even when it comes to book boxes, I find they kind of often don't do that for the BIPOC books. They just kind of give them a recolored cover and sprayed edges. But we're not getting those kinds of exclusives, and that's this kind of special editions I would really like to see. But like, this is clearly a cash grab, obviously, from the publishers to like have this special edition here, the special edition here, the special edition here, because they're kind of hoping you will be enticed enough to buy multiple copies of the book. And it's okay to admit that's a cash grab. Like, I don't understand the arguments against it being a cash grab. Like, no, it's so blatantly a cash grab. And, like, it's okay to admit it's just all about the money. Like, people act like, oh my gosh, these authors need to eat and you guys are being so insensitive and blah, 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 blah. The authors who are getting 4 different special editions are doing fine. They are the ones who have the massive deals bringing in thousands of dollars. Hence why the publisher is putting thousands of dollars behind them. They're usually the ones you see getting the exclusive influencer boxes, getting pre-order giveaways, and all this heavy marketing to make sure their book is a success. And the people who are on the opposite end, they are just getting a very basic cover, because some of these covers right now are, I could make something better in Canva, and they are getting no attention. Like, the author is lucky if they even get a galley run at this point, because a lot of books aren't even getting that. There are so many books that we literally hear the publisher mention nothing about until release day. So I can't say I'm a fan of this special edition culture right now, because I feel like the publisher should be taking that same money and allocating it towards the books that really do need a push. So those were just a couple of things that were on my mind right now that I kind of saw talked about in the bookish space recently. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. If you like this video, make sure and hit that like button. Thanks so much for watching, and enjoy the rest of your day and keep reading. Bye.